Welcome to another episode, Middle Ground with JLE L.L.C, where we treat you like family. We got another awesome guest for you today. I forgot. That's the theme song, Detroit Love, from my first album, the JLE Experience. I own the music and the copyright. Don't mute nothing, Facebook. Always got to say that. All right, we got another great guest for you today. We have veteran-owned business, founder, and facilitation skills coach at Present Your Way to Success, David D. Doerrier, LLC, if I said it right.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. I've been following you for a while, and it's such an honor to be a guest on your podcast. This is great. Thank you.
I appreciate you. First question, what led you to this path?
What led me to this path? There's been a number of things that have led me to the path. Now, let's define what the path is. The path is helping people to be more proficient speakers, facilitators, trainers, salespeople. I'm not a sales coach. However, I do help people to do a better job of connecting with their audience. So that's the path. There's many things that have brought me to this. I grew up on Long Island, New York, born, raised, and conceived, not necessarily in that order, on Long Island. Graduated high school in 76, and then a year later, or graduated in 75, and then a year later, I went into the military, into the Air Force. At the time when I was graduating high school, the only thing I knew was that I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to, I didn't like learning. I loved working and learning while I was working. And so, to make a long story short, during my time in the Air Force, I was 10 years active duty and 18 years in the reserves. One of my dreams as a kid was to get somehow into radio broadcasting.
Okay.
And I ended up getting into radio broadcasting while I was stationed on Guam. And that's why I came off active duty, went into radio broadcasting, ended up doing theater for a number of years. And then at some point I was saying, I need a change. I don't know what it is. I'm not making enough money in radio. I like theater, but it's community theater. I'm not making any money at it. I need a change. Something's got to happen. And then I've had a lot of lucky things happen to me over the year. I think there's a higher power. There is a higher power that's looking over my shoulder. And around this same time that I just knew I needed to make a change, my first sergeant in the reserves came up to me and says, "Hey, would you like to be a trainer at Dobbins Air Force Base in Marietta, Georgia, and be training folks that are coming into the reserves in our career field?" This was in 1995. And I got started in training and development and found that this was my calling. I understood it. I understood the mechanics. There's a process to writing training and delivering training. There was a lot that I needed to learn, and I'm still learning it every day, but I learned it by the seat of my pants, and I feel that I do a really good job at it, and it's my calling to be a facilitations coach, presentation skills coach, and an instructional designer.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. And we have the Mr. Vulnerability himself, Carl Watkins. And what's up? Jeffrey, we're treat you like family. Great guy. So, what is Present Your Way to Success?
Great question. Thanks, Jeffrey. Present Your Way to Success. I feel that any business owner, trainer, leader in an organization, a mom who's speaking at the PTA, there's many ways of communicating to your audience. 93% of the message comes from nonverbals. So someone's poise, body language, eye contact, vocal variety, not the words, just the vocal variety, all of those things communicate a message to the audience. And what I help people do is to not only craft their message, but also discuss how best to deliver that message in a way that's engaging and it's done with professionalism and poise. Because someone getting up in front of a group of people, and if they're not looking at their audience, they're looking down the entire time, they
Yeah, that's
and
the problem.
and ah and all that. And maybe
Yeah, that's the
if they're
problem.
live in front of the audience and they're like a ping pong ball going back and forth on the stage or in the virtual environment, something as simple as not looking into the camera. If the presenter is looking away the entire time or looking down the entire time, that says something to the audience. So what is Present Your Way to Success? Working with people to help them craft a message and be able to deliver that message that engages their audience.
Now, when I first started college in '97, I had a speech class, and the teacher talked about a lot of those things where you got to get in front of the podium and just do a 5 minute about yourself. And I was terrified, like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta talk to people. I don't want to do that. And you couldn't move your hands, so like, don't do nothing to distract from what you're saying. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What is this man talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But once we started getting more comfortable, you would notice, you like, why this person doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Or why they keep doing hand? You wouldn't be hearing what they saying. Like, okay, it does make sense.
Right.
Now, have you ever had a very complicated person that was nervous to adjust to this type of training to speak in front of people?
Yeah, that's another great question. Someone asked me that question just the other day, if I had any difficult people. At times I do. One of the things I think that most coaches have to work through with a client is to get through that ego. And
Okay.
what I have found with speakers is that ego can be somewhat fragile. People will
Mm-hmm.
say, well, I never get nervous in front of an audience. I've been doing this for years. I've been selling for years. I took a class in college 15 years ago. I took a
Okay.
Toastmasters class once. I'm good. I'm good to go. All of those things are great. Certainly,
Mhm.
certainly help with those foundational skills. But my question to all of them would be, are you connecting to your audience? Is your audience understanding what you're saying? So the difficulty, what I've had to work through is, let me answer the question this way. One of the things as a trainer, as a coach, is
Mm-hmm.
I need to facilitate the discussion so the individual discovers the solution on their own.
Okay.
So I can't, I cannot do an effective job by saying, Jeffrey, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to take a different approach and you have to do this and you have to do that. That doesn't land on you.
No, I might get offensive.
Yeah, exactly. So what I have to do is use more questions. Well, Jeffrey, what is your objective? What do you feel that you're doing well? What do you feel you need to work on? What are some of the reactions that you're getting from your audience? What kind of feedback have you received in the past? And
Mm-hmm.
based on those responses, that's going to lead me to my next question with my objective. That all of these questions are all about leading to my objective, and that is for them to understand that maybe I do need to look at something a little differently. Maybe I do need to approach my presentation. Maybe I need to prepare a little bit more. Maybe I need to write
Yeah,
my
you got
presentation.
fair.
Maybe I need to have
Mm-hmm.
objectives
Practice.
and practice.
I remember that speech class, man. He really gave me that foundation for that. I know when I
Mhm.
moved from Anchor to doing it live stream, I was terrified first few shows.
Mm-hmm.
people looking at me. Oh my goodness! So you definitely gotta make sure you're looking right. Just
Mm-hmm.
because you're looking at yourself while you're talking to someone, like,
Mm-hmm.
man, you look like you bummy scummy. What you doing, man? People gonna be seeing this gonna be on YouTube forever. You gotta be right.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
find a way to get comfortable in the environment to just be yourself, because you really do got to be yourself to present
Right.
whatever you're trying to say to anybody, so they can feel comfortable and connect with whatever you're trying to talk about.
Exactly. And, and what you brought up is very common with folks. One of the things that's certainly has benefited me over the years. I
Mhm.
was in radio broadcasting for 12 years. From day one, I was recording myself. I was
Okay.
recording every show so I could listen to myself and not only uh, do my self evaluation, but also get feedback from my program director, which was just invaluable. It had such a lot of valuable information. So the point is, I got used to hearing my voice.
Okay.
And I still do voiceover to this day for educational materials. So I hear my voice all the time, where many people who are hearing their voice for the very first time
Mhm.
all say the same thing. I can't stand my voice. I hate my voice. I sound terrible. It's normal. It's normal. It's
Uh-huh.
that everybody is going to be very critical of themselves, more so critical of yourself than anyone else is going to be.
And it's crazy because back in '09, when I was working midnights as custodian at Wayne State, a female coworker said when she heard some of my music I started working on, "You got a good radio voice." Like, I don't know about doing no radio stuff. And here it is now I'm doing that. Like, what the world? What did she see I didn't see?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Now, what all does a facilitation skills coach do to help the person get prepared?
Well, another great question. First, I need to understand what your objectives are.
Mhm.
When it comes to facilitation, first let's define facilitation, because when some people hear facilitation, they think of maybe a lawyer who's facilitating or
Okay.
mediating a discussion between parties in a legal matter of some sort.
Hmm.
And I like to use the term facilitation as a trainer, because I see myself more facilitating the learning versus me doing all of the talking or training. As I
Okay.
mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, what my objective is to facilitate the discussion in a way that the participants discover the solutions on their own. It just doesn't stick as well if it's just me up in front of the room saying how great this product is, or how great this software is, or how great this new leadership process is. So what does a facilitation coach do? uh, First is, I need to understand your objectives. What are your goals? Who are you facilitating? Who are you training? Why do you feel you need this training? And then once I understand what it is that you want to do, then at the foundation of everything that I teach is the adult learning theory. In every situation, adults are looking for the same thing when it comes to learning something new or being in a meeting, because
Hmm.
it's the adult learning theory is all about creating engagement. That if you and I are in a meeting, or if I'm training you, the 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 the, the adult learning theory is all about getting you to talk, getting you to have a discussion, getting you to answer questions. It's creating engagement. So I hope I'm answering your question. Hello,
Absolutely.
Tisha. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome family right there. She put me on to a lot of great guests over since I've been on this journey. Um, I did see on your page subject matter expert. What is that, and how did you come up with that terminology?
Well, great question. Yeah, well, coming from training and development, that's a common term when in an organization. I worked in training departments, and
Mm-hmm.
the sales folks will come to us and say, "We need training development or training developed. We need." Um, Other departments are saying we need training developed. Okay, great. We can develop the training. We are experts in the training department. We are experts at developing the training. However, we are not experts with the subject matter. So
Okay.
I I need to recruit someone in the sales department to be my subject matter expert. And that's that person. Then I ask them 9 million questions. Like, why do you feel you need this? I've always asked questions. That's how I've learned throughout as long as I can remember. I don't learn well by reading a book. I learn well by finding experts and asking them all the questions.
Good approach.
So, yep. So the subject matter expert, the definition of that is in this example in the sales department, the subject matter expert that knows what problems are they facing.
Mm-hmm.
Why are the salespeople not performing up to expectations? Where are the gaps? And all of those 9 million questions are going to help me to understand how to first design the objectives of this training. So the subject matter expert is invaluable. My expertise is writing the training. I can write it. I mean, I can put
Okay.
it into a format that is going to
Mm-hmm.
be understandable. However, the content that goes into that training, only a subject matter expert can give that to me. Does that make
That's awesome.
sense? Yeah.
Absolutely. I just never seen that title before. Found it real awesome. Like, okay, I
Mhm.
had to ask about that one. Um, Now part of the show where we market what you got going on and what you got coming up. Floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I've got an ebook that's available free on my website. It's an ebook about the adult learning theory. There are 8 principles that are part of the adult learning theory that all adults are looking for in a learning situation or in a meeting. If you are running the meeting, it's all about creating engagement. If you go to my website, you'll see the web address there, the short version of presentyourwaytosuccess.com. You go to my website, up along the menu bar at the top, get the ebook. And if you just fill in your name, it's bring you to a second page where you can download the free ebook, and it is a kind of an overview, a very high level overview of the adult learning theory that is free. If you'd like to just have a discussion with me for 35 minutes and pick my brain about facilitation, about public speaking, about how to, if you're creating a training, if you want to create e-learning, everybody now wants to create e-learning or wants to create training and have it on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of ways to approach that. Some people feel that, I'm an expert, I'm a subject matter expert, so if I just start talking, everybody's going to want to listen to me. Well, I don't think so. You got to have some objectives. So if you want to
Yeah.
talk about how to create e-learning, how to write it, because there's a certain approach that you need to take. It needs to be somewhat scripted, and there needs to be objectives. That's the one thing that through my 30 years in training and development, for some reason, understanding objectives came pretty easy to me. And I was quite surprised that, again, I'm not trying to sound big headed or anything, but even people that I've met in training sometimes have a tough time understanding the difference between an objective and a task. There's quite a bit of a difference there. So what do I have going on? The free stuff on my website. You can also set up a meeting with me. We can chat. If you would like to go further with coaching, we can talk about that. But if you set up a coaching or a 35-minute discovery call, I'm not going to be selling you. I'll be answering your questions. If we get to when we get to that end of 35 minutes and you feel you'd like to take this a little further, then we can talk about some programs. I customize everything for all of my clients.
Okay. You wrote a book? Another one?
Well, I have two ebooks that are out. The second one I haven't put on my website yet. The first one is the one that I talked about of the adult learning theory. The second one is about virtual presentations, about how to some things to think about when it comes to presenting or having a meeting virtually.
Any merchandise?
Merchandise. That's a great question. You know, I have to all of my clients, I give them a Yeti mug that's got my logo on it. I don't have one handy. I have pens that I give away as well. So if someone contacts me and we have a 35-minute discussion and they say, "Hey, Dave, send me a Yeti mug," I'll send them a Yeti mug.
Awesome.
But you got to ask for it.
Anything else you got going on coming up?
After the first of the year, I will start having my 60-minute introductory workshops, free workshop that I've been running through Eventbrite. I'll be setting that up again after the first of the year. Now, this beard that I have, I'm also a Santa Claus.
Okay, awesome.
So I've got 4 businesses. There we go. I have 4. I got 4 businesses. One of them is the presentation skills. The other is my voiceover business, elearningvoiceover.com. I have an online radio station. It's more of a music channel, all 60s, 70s, and 80s. That's CLIradio.com for classic Long Island radio. Commercial free, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Lots of deep cuts. And my 4th business is Santa Claus. I've been doing Santa for 30 years. I love Santa.
Yeah, I've been sitting there like, I'm not going to say nothing unless you bring it up.
and I've been trained by the real one.
Okay, that's awesome. It is that time. You know, I do find it a little funny now on how if you go to a store, like I went to Dollar Tree to get some batteries a few days ago. It's Thanksgiving time. It's never Christmas stuff up now. Like we just skip over the turkey.
Yeah. I was at Kroger earlier today, and there were 2 folks that were stocking the shelves with all kinds of Christmas stuff. I remember as a kid, we'd go to the department store the day before Thanksgiving, and you'd see nothing. And then you'd go the day after Thanksgiving, and it's like the whole place was decorated overnight.
Yeah, you have to wait your turn. Okay, it's fall, it's Halloween. Yep. Now it's Thanksgiving. Okay, it's your turn. Like, we just skipping the line up.
Yep. Yeah, it's and I get Santa requests in November. I don't have any. Awesome. Yeah, most of those are more corporate events or events where people want to get their pictures with Santa early enough so they can use those pictures for their holiday cards.
Now, in the building I worked at back in early 2000 in Wayne State, I forgot what department was. It was in the sub basement. I dressed up as Santa for the kids.
And how did you like that?
That was an experience. Oh, they was like, "Oh my God, it's Santa!" I'm like, "Wow, kids really love Santa." I'm not doing like it's for the kids. I love the kids. I do.
It tests your impromptu speaking skills, because you like the old Art Linkletter program. Kids say the darndest things, and they definitely say the darndest things.
That is so true. Anything else you got going on before we move on?
Go ahead and move on to your next question.
Okay. What is your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is I do find clients, but the challenge with some clients or finding some people is something I mentioned a little earlier, is that individual, or maybe that training manager, that doesn't isn't open to, maybe there are some other ways of connecting to the audience, or
Okay.
that business owner that says, I've been doing this for years, I don't need any help, but they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they're not getting the results that they
Yeah.
want. Or
Gotcha.
that or that business owner or speaker whose ego won't allow them to say, Dave, I could use some help. So it's
Mhm.
I always find it refreshing when I meet someone who admits that, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried this other thing, and I'm not getting the results that I need, and I need to make some changes. I need some help. I have a coach because I need help at times to craft a speech. When we are so close to it, and I
Mhm.
hear this from all coaches, that when people are so close to it, you just don't see all of these other opportunities or these other
Mhm.
doors that are that are out there. Oh, look at those other doors. And that's what my job is as a coach, is to facilitate the discussion, ask questions, get you to see things a little bit differently, expand on what you already do, and to just give you an opportunity to see things, just see a little bigger picture.
Yeah. Great leaders ask for help.
That is so true. I've done a lot of leadership training over the years, and one of the things that many new leaders struggle with, people that are moving from a position of being a doer now to being a leader, they think that they have to know everything, and they have to do everything.
Mhm.
That isn't the case at all. It's many of them have a difficult time letting go of the things that they did in the past. They have a difficult time delegating to others. I worked with a woman years ago, and on our first interview, she said to me, David, I don't have to know everything. That's why I hire great people that are
Yeah.
experts in their field, because I don't have to know everything. Yes, she's got to be a motivator. She's got to be to me, a leader is not someone who knows it all, but is someone who can motivate and keep the ship afloat.
Absolutely. Because
Mhm.
John Maxwell, he came and spoke at Wayne State business class 2015 or 16, and he talked about a lot of those. Because
Mhm.
he was a life coach for Fortune 500 CEOs, and that blew me away. Like, they got a life
Mhm.
coach?
Mhm.
And he gave us like an hour and a half of what he would teach them. And he had mentioned great leaders ask for help. I mean, why would you sit there and you don't know, and you really got to get this task done,
Mhm.
and you won't ever say, you know what, I need help with that.
Right.
Because if
Yeah.
it don't work out and you cost the company money, gonna look at you suspect, like, why you here?
Right.
You could have asked for help. We got the resources. What you doing?
Mhm.
And it always
Right.
stuck with me that he said that.
Mhm. Yeah, you got all this expert talent here. You need to use it. The leader understands what is our objective. What is
Mhm.
it that we need to? Uh, they have an understanding of what needs to be fixed and why it needs to be fixed and why we need to end up in this at this objective here. They understand that, but it's up to us worker bees, to make it
Yeah,
happen. And he's there to motivate us.
absolutely. What has been your impact?
Say that again.
What has been your impact?
What has been my impact? That's a great question. What has been my impact? Explain that question a little bit to me.
When I ask people that question, it's pertaining to you've been doing all this awesome work, and if you can reflect upon it, what would you say been your impact in doing what you do to help people in this field?
Okay, great. Yes. So the first thing that comes to mind is someone that I recently worked with when we're talking about, if I understand the question correctly, my coaching has impacted someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a couple of people that I've recently worked with. The first individual I'll talk about is a young kid. He was 12 years old. He was living in China. He's Chinese. He had lived in the States for a while and moved back to China and was competing in a speech competition. He had made it through the first speech competition and was going to the second speech competition, and they found me. His mother found me, and I helped him to craft a speech, and he presented that speech as part of the competition, and he then moved on to the finals.
Awesome.
I did not work with him in the finals, but he did make it to the finals. So that was one thing. It was like I was so proud, like I was a proud papa with this
Awesome.
little kid. This little kid was like a genius. He could only speak for 2 minutes, and when he started, he had 15 minutes of content that we had to narrow down to 2 minutes. I kept telling him 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Awesome.
And then the second was more recent than this. I had a gentleman who found me from Utah. One of the great things is being able to do what I do virtually. And this gentleman had been paralyzed from the waist down in a construction accident. And he had been invited to be a speaker at a conference for HVAC technicians in Colorado, and his objective was to speak about safety in construction or in in that type of industry. He had never spoken in front of a group of people, had never written a speech before. We had 2 weeks to work on this.
Oh man.
And we put it together. We put together the presentation in 2 weeks. He went and delivered it, and he did a good job, did a really good job, and it's videotaped, and it just really proud of him. And we're going to have a conversation this weekend and talk about how can he get more opportunities like this to speak at conferences, building conferences, and so on, to talk about being safe on the job. And he's an example of someone who had an accident, is paralyzed from the waist down. The accident could have been prevented, and he wants to make sure that no one else ends up in that wheelchair.
That's amazing, brother.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last question. What advice do you have for someone trying to find their purpose?
That's a great question. I was watching something. I was watching something last night on TV, and the gentleman that was speaking was talking about finding what it is that you love to do and to follow that path. I have been very lucky. One of the things that I wanted to do from when I was a kid was to get involved in radio broadcasting. Very lucky. Long story short, I ended up going in one day to sit in and watch a gentleman who was, this was back in the early 80s, showed everything was very different in radio back then. Records, 45s, LPs, radio was very manual, very manual.
Yeah,
Showed me
let's watch that show, WKRP in Cincinnati.
WKRP in Cincinnati. One thing you'll see on Facebook now is one of their classic bits about the turkeys, because we're coming up to Thanksgiving. Do you remember that scene?
think I remember. Look it up to refresh myself.
Yeah, you can Google that, or on YouTube is WKRP Turkeys. I think just that, and it's Les Nessman is out doing a live remote, and they wanted to give away turkeys, and the guy that runs the radio station says, "For the life of me, I thought turkeys could fly." It's classic. But you're right about, you know, what you see there on TV as far as the record players, the very manual board, everything. Yes, when I started in radio, so I had an opportunity to pursue that dream because it manifested itself, and I took advantage of it. The other is I felt that I had a different calling. And I did radio for 12 years. I wanted to do something else. What was it? I don't know. Maybe I'll be a preacher. Maybe I'll be a speaker. I don't know what it was. And then whammo, I was invited by the Air Force Reserves to come here to Georgia to be an instructor. And now for 30 years, I've been involved in training and development. And now, along the way in corporate, I started training subject matter experts in the company to be trainers and facilitators, and found that I loved it. And so back to your question, what would my advice be is to pursue what it is that you're passionate about. And I am passionate about helping people be better presenters. And I'm passionate about not scarring anyone's ego.
I hear you on that one. Yeah, people egos, boy.
Yes.
You gotta be humble, let that go.
Yeah.
Be confident, but all the extra stuff with it.
Yeah.
And that's a great advice, because you gotta find something you love to do. You go research it, check with God if that's what you should be doing, and go all out for it. If you stumble, keep going.
Yeah.
Nothing's easy. You have to work in.
Well, you know, you brought up a really good point. Sometimes just finding someone who's in that field, and then maybe they're available as a mentor, or at least available that you buy them lunch or something and just pick their brain. How did they get started in that business? What motivated them? What did they have to learn? What schools did they have to go to? You know, there could be a million questions, and then find someone who's in that field that you're passionate about, and then pick their brain.
And I've tried with the questions I've come up with to say, if someone want to go into these fields and they come across this video, is asking that if they can never have that cup of coffee with the person. They can get a live experience of the good, bad. Okay, let me go do some more research, because this person doing it. They seem to love it. I think I might want to do it. And I got a snapshot of what it is. I'm humbled by you saying they great questions. I mean, I think they're very basic.
No, they're great questions. I love, I love being challenged with the questions. I've been a part of Toastmasters. You know, I'll give this advice as well. If someone is wanting to pursue, it doesn't even have to be a professional public speaking job or goal, just to be able to work on your speaking. Toastmasters.org is a great organization. It's probably the cheapest and most valuable way that you can learn public speaking in a very safe environment. There are thousands of clubs that meet all around, not only Atlanta, but around the world. And it costs you probably less than $120 a year to be involved in a club where you can speak on a weekly basis, get feedback from your club members. You can visit other clubs. It's a great way to fine tune your message. If you're a leader in an organization, if you run meetings, if you speak at work, if you do training at work, Toastmasters is a great way to work on your craft. And if anyone wants to contact me, go through my website and pick my brain on how to end, about the training and development business, writing training, delivering training, of how did I end up in this business? What did I need to learn to be effective instructional designer or a trainer? I do a lot of mentoring for veterans. There's a number of different veterans organizations, but the one that I work with is Hire Heroes. At least once a month, I get a request to mentor a veteran, and in many cases, they're all asking the same question: how they're transitioning from active duty into the civilian world, and they just don't know what to do. They don't know what path they want to take, and I'll end up just asking them a million questions, and by the end of it, we kind of have a direction on where they should go.
And we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Put your website, the Hire Heroes, and the Toastmasters. If you notice when I post in the description, so they can just click on those links if they want to go straight to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great advice, great conversation with someone that might want to go into these fields. They play the replay of it. They give them a snapshot of what their life is like.
Yeah.
I want to thank veteran-owned business founder, facilitation skills coach at Present Your Way to Success, David D. Doerrier, L.L.C, for being an awesome guest. Awesome information, awesome stories, and awesome Santa. A great time.
Right.
Hope you have
Jeffrey.
fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And hope everybody have a safe weekend. Until next week, I'm going to play this awesome outro I created. And we're going to do this again. Have a good one, everybody.